Jason Hettler here, and in this edition of Altis Shorts, we're going to discuss my favorite topic, acceleration. In doing so, we're going to cover the three key concepts of projection, rhythm, and rise. This serves as the basis to any work that we do with both team sport athletes as well as sprint populations. So let's dive in. We'll start with projection, as it occurs throughout the first step and builds from there, and then it sets up the rhythm and the rise. What we're talking about when we speak of projection is really just covering ground. It's projecting the center of mass horizontally through space. The magnitude of this projection is dependent on a few things, including strength levels, timing abilities, and the task at hand. So stronger athletes can project a little bit lower. Athletes who are a little bit more coordinated can project a little bit lower. And if you're projecting over a full distance of, say, 100 meters versus a 10-meter task, the projection angle and magnitude is going to slightly differ. Let's get into what we're talking about. But first, a couple of common myths or mistakes. Athletes will often opt towards frequency on the first couple of steps because it feels fast. They're able to spin their legs over and they feel like they're moving quickly, which they are, but they're just not going anywhere. They're not covering any ground. The other common myth is that 45-degree angle is the best angle for everybody to project out at, but as we just discussed, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. If we use this image as an example, we can see the athlete in the middle projecting a little bit higher than the athlete on either side of them. If we look at body types, we can see that the athletes on the outer edges are a little bit stronger, a little bit more powerful than the athlete in the middle. They also have shorter limbs to coordinate. So with these differences, they're able to project out at a lower angle than the athlete in the middle. Now, if we pay attention to these angles of projection and compare it with the angles here out of this group of women, we can also see that these women are projecting a little bit higher, again, having to do with strength and power abilities. So what happens if you project out too high? You're not going to produce enough horizontal force. Then, once you move into a more upright position, you start to overpush too late into the stride to make up for this lack of horizontal force. Project out too low and you'll see an athlete cast and break. By this I mean the lower shank is going to extend out. They're going to contact the ground in front of the center of mass, well in front of the center of mass typically, and experience a braking force until that center of mass passes over the base of support. So that sets up projection, and then projection is going to set up rhythm and rise. If we think of rhythm, we can think of the sound that an athlete's foot will make as it contacts the ground, whatever surface they may be on. And this sound is going to get a little bit more greater frequency as the athlete progresses into the run and builds up speed. Much the same as a train will chug, 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 leaving a station, and this gradually increases. If the rhythm progresses too slowly, you will see increased ground contact times and decreased flight time. If it progresses too quickly, there's again decreased horizontal force production, which then is attempted to make up for later after an athlete rises. So with rise, we're talking about the total body angle relative to the ground. So it starts off at initial projection angle, and then from there we want to see a gradual rise with each step. If an athlete rises too quickly, again, we see decreased horizontal velocities, and too slowly we see the decreased frontside mechanics. By this, what we're talking about is an athlete who stays extremely low during their acceleration and has difficulty driving their thigh forward, creating space between their foot and the ground, and then striking the ground with negative foot speed. A few considerations with these three key concepts. Ultimately, we're looking to find ways to get the athletes to use the ground. As I mentioned, they opt for stride frequency quite often because it feels fast, but they're not producing any force. So determining which cues or drills, such as resisted accelerations or plyometrics, can be utilized to help find those athletes the ability to use the ground is key. Further, we can vary start positions, and based on the objectives mentioned, projection, rhythm, and rise, we can start to make those concepts a little bit easier or a little bit harder to execute. This allows the athlete an opportunity to learn and to solidify some of these concepts, and it also allows us to challenge them a little bit more. The bottom line is accelerating is a skill, and we need to treat it as such. So we need to be intentional as coaches and practitioners with how we're structuring the programming and the cues and the drills that we're providing. Hopefully this helps lays out some of the key considerations for acceleration. Again, projection, rhythm, and rise serve as a starting point in any work that we do with team sport athletes. Once they understand what we mean by projection, rhythm, and rise, we can start to enhance the conversations that we have, subsequently enhancing the learning. Thank you.